Our next speaker, Rick Smith, is the founding CEO of a company called World 50 that you might have heard of, often cited as one of the world's most influential senior executive networking companies. He's also the best-selling author of The 5 Patterns of Extraordinary Careers, which has been sold in 13 languages, including English, and remains one of the top-selling professional career books of all time. But his most recent book just came out a few weeks ago. It's called The Leap, How 3 Simple Changes Can Propel Your Career from Good to Great. And he's here to talk to us about how we can guide ourselves towards roles that more fully leverage our strengths and our passions to be more creative, to be more engaged, have greater performance, and accelerate our careers. All fantastic things. So please welcome Rick Smith. Thanks.
Thank you. How's everybody doing? All right, I'd like to take you back just for a moment to the time when you were a child. Just think back to that time. And specifically what I want you to think about, get in your head, is that amazing perspective, that belief that anything you wanted to accomplish in the world, you could, no matter what it was. Just get that amazing, unconstrained perspective in your head for just a second. Weren't we so naive? I mean, didn't you have this belief you actually might control the outcome of your life? I mean, I certainly had this. Now, I don't know why I had it, why I had such confidence. I mean, maybe it was the fact that I was born into a world of wealth and privilege. This is my childhood estate. That's my room there on the west wing, top bunk. Or maybe it was my looks. From my earliest memories, I just knew that my looks were special. Okay, so I wasn't a very good-looking kid. In fact, my dad used to tell everybody that I was so ugly as a kid they had to sit me in the corner and feed me with a slingshot. Now, unfortunately, I grew out of that look. What? Well, or maybe the reason I was so confident was because of my family. I remember going to my uncle's house, and there was just this incredible feeling of creativity that at any moment something electric could happen. Well, whatever the reason, I really did have this confidence, this belief that the point of my life was to find my place in it, to do something great and positive, to live life to its greatest potential. Now, I didn't know where or when this might happen in my work, my company, my family, my community. Maybe I'd lead dozens of people or thousands, hundreds of people, or maybe I'd have a positive impact on individuals, one person at a time. But from the get-go, I always knew that I was unique, and I had to find some way to exploit that uniqueness. And I bet most of you, I can't speak for all of you, but I bet most of you at some point had that same feeling, that the purpose of your life was to do something great and positive, to lead others towards something great and positive, to live life to its greatest potential. But then somewhere along the way, we start to lose that confidence. We start to ratchet back our expectations. We settle for a house that may not be exactly right, for a job that doesn't leverage our strengths and our passions, and for a level of impact in our companies and our communities that, if we were being completely honest with ourselves, we knew was below our potential. In a word, we rationalize. We say to ourselves, it's okay to be okay. But we also know this is baloney at times, that we create the greatness of our potential right here in our heads, and we create the limitations, the barriers to that potential in exactly the same place. So it's okay to rationalize. But what I'm really interested in is, what are the real limits of your potential? What are the limits of the potential of those you lead? So what I'd like to invite you to do during our brief time together is to openly, honestly explore the real potential in yourself, in your contribution, in your significance, in your excellence, the real potential that exists in those that you lead. One, because if you help others achieve their potential, they will pay you back 10 times over. 2, because you will make your greatest contribution to those you lead and to those you serve if you take ownership over your own potential. And 3, because we all win. You, your company, your community, your church, your family, we all win if you do. Now, I'm not saying I'm any different than the rest of you. You may not even remember when you began to rationalize in your life. But I remember the exact day. In fact, I have proof. When I was only 8 years old, at the hands of a teacher, I was graded. That's right, I was graded. And it's worse than that. Because right there on that first test was a B, mocking me. That's when I knew it was over. Sure, there were more B's that followed. I took my B average all the way through high school. And then I got into college and I thought, wait, a blank slate. Now's my chance to really excel. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to focus 100% of my time and attention on my grades. There is nothing that is going to distract me. Okay, so there were some distractions. But despite that, I was able to graduate in the top 80% of my class. Then I entered the workforce and I thought to myself, great, a clean slate. Now's my chance to start over. I'm really going to excel. But as I got 1 year, 2 year, 5 years into my career, I started to run into those same frustrations, right? I had some success. I was making okay money. I got promoted. My mom was certainly proud of me. But if you fast forward 15 years, you can break my resume down into 4 words. Quit, laid off, quit, laid off. And this is how I celebrated my 37th birthday. I was out of work. I was really low, really frustrated. And it wasn't because I was in between jobs. I knew I'd find work. But for the first time in my life, I'd wake up, I'd look in the mirror, and the face looking back at me was saying, is this it? Seriously? This is your contribution? And then something strange started to happen. I began playing with an idea that I'd had about a year earlier, and that was to create a network of executives, and not just any network, but the most influential network of executives in the world, where the most powerful, experienced people would come together to share, to collaborate, to solve each other's problems. I even came up with a name that seemed to capture the grandeur of this idea, World 50. Now, I knew at the time this may have been a little far-fetched. Certainly everyone around me was quick to point out this might have been overly ambitious. But I thought to myself, what's the harm in exploring the idea? What's the risk in opening myself up to the possibility of it? Then I ran into a guy named Carl Guston, who at the time was Global Chief Marketing Officer of Eastman Kodak Company. It turns out Carl didn't think my idea was so crazy at all. In fact, not only did he want to join, he wanted to introduce me to all of his friends. Within 3 months, I had signed up 15 of the top chief marketing officers in the world. Within 3 years, I had signed up over 100 executives across many different functional areas, each paying me $50,000 a year to participate in my network. I had gone from complete anonymity to being right at the center of one of the most interesting and influential business conversations in the world. And as the influence of our groups grew, so for example, our marketing group represented the top 50 marketing executives in the world who together represented or commanded about $40 billion in marketing spend. So as the influence of these groups grew, we started to attract some really fascinating people that wanted to come to the party. People like Bob Dole, John Major, George Mitchell, Lance Armstrong, Magic Johnson, Jon Stewart. Al Gore helped us launch our sustainability group. Bono. Okay, so here I am having dinner with Bono. Right, this is a cool moment. Penelope Cruz just pops in. Just popped in. So Bono introduces me, but Penelope doesn't say a word. She stands right in front of me, speechless. So I took a deep breath, and I looked deep into her eyes, and I said, hey. She quickly left. Here I am with Robert Redford. In fact, Bob enjoyed our meeting so much that he invited everybody back to his ranch in Sundance. I'm standing in his stables. He comes tooling down on his motorcycle. Top 5 coolest things I think I've ever seen. Francis Ford Coppola wanted to come to our meetings and share his ideas on creativity and share wine from his private cellar. Even my dad wanted to come. No, I don't know what your relationship is with your father, but it hasn't always been that easy for me to get that affirmation. But for once, he was really proud of me. He wanted to come to our meetings and meet some of these interesting people. Now, unfortunately, he couldn't come up with the $50,000, but it was really nice to know that he was, proud of me. Ugly baby. So 2 years, right? 2 years from a standing start, stuck in a rut, wheels spinning in place,